first off, thanks everyone for joining us for this panel. We're really excited for it. We want to thank Snap One for sponsoring this panel. We've got one tomorrow from you guys as well. It's been a great morning and early afternoon so far, so we're hoping that this continues with the great education. We'll thank our lead sponsor, NICE, one more time for putting the agenda together and helping us formulate everything that's going into the education and helping us find all the panelists. So especially for people like Henry and Jonathan taking your time away from the show floor, we really appreciate it. And John, I'm sure you're not busy or anything like that at shows like this. So we appreciate you for 45, 50 minutes out of your time as well. So with that, my name's Arlen Schweiger. I'm the editor-in-chief of CE Pro Magazine. And today we're going to have a topic that is near and dear to our heart, which is customer service. It's something that we've been preaching about for years. It impacts your ongoing relationship with customers, customer potential referrals, potential recurring revenue, and basically companies like Snap are making it really easy and helping you guys get into the right direction with that these days. So we're going to hear from some top-level integrators about that. So in terms of focusing on all that, we'll have just quick introductions, but John Heyman, Snap One, Jonathan George from iWired, and Henry Clifford of Livewire. Thank you guys very much. Unfortunately, Scott Newman from Audio Advice could not be here to join us. He has plenty of things to say about customer service. I'll just say sign up for their newsletter and you'll see exactly what they're doing on a daily basis when it comes to connecting with their customers. Follow them on Facebook and the social media space, and you'll see another example of that. So with that, John, people know your name. I don't know if everyone here knows exactly what you do on a daily basis, but tell us for Snap One.
On a daily basis, the job differs every day. I think we all wake up every single morning and think about this industry and the integrators and what they're trying to do in the end markets. And at Snap One, I actually don't do anything. The team is amazing, and they do it. And every now and then, they might need a little help from me in prioritizing something, but it's the team. And I'm just super happy to be part of a company that holds this community so dear. And thanks to all of y'all for being here this afternoon. We know you could spend your time anywhere.
All right. Thanks again for Snap One. And just quick, John, remind us where your booth is and what numbers?
Our booth, I don't know the numbers, but it's right over there, and it's the one everybody's always at.
All right.
What number?
1518.
Great.
All right.
1518.
So don't forget to go to 1518. Jonathan, tell us a bit about you and your company and your demographic and who you're targeting as your clientele and things like that.
So my company's iWired. We are a residential integrator. We have 2 offices, one in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the other one here in Denver, Colorado. We are heavily actually a production integrator. So we do an enormous volume of homes every year. We touched about 3,000 rooftops last year. Our sweet spot is what I would call the upper middle market consumer. So we define that as typically about $1 million price point on a home, high discretionary income for the homeowners, and homeowners who want to be able to customize their technology experience. So that is definitely our sweet spot.
Great. And I imagine with those locations, are you dealing with a lot of secondary homes, vacation homes for your clients?
Yeah, we have, in Arizona in particular, we have a huge snowbird culture. So we get clients from as far away as Canada, but all over the upper Midwest who spend part of their time there, and it may be one of many homes that they own.
Okay, so we'll definitely want to talk about how you are able to help them check in on their homes with peace of mind. Henry, you wear a couple of hats in the industry as an integrator, as a founder of a certain company. So tell us a bit about what exactly you've been up to.
Yeah, sure. Great to be here. And I love our industry. Love CEDIA. So really excited to be here. Every year I just get fired up just walking around. I have a company called Livewire, and we've been around for about 20 years. started with nothing, just sort of a patch of dirt and a Dodge Neon, and people telling me I was crazy. Today we've got around 30 employees. We do residential, commercial, builder work, and just like most of you in the audience, here to sort of try to see around the corners. And in that time, we've had the really cool opportunity to take some pain points inside of our business, like service and support, and be able to partner with great folks like Greg Simmons and Ted Bremenkamp. We started Parasol a few years ago, or training. My partner Dante Walston, we incubated a program for online and in-person learning inside of our company, and then turned around and made it sort of industry facing. So my day-to-day is I just keep doing that, and I will keep doing that. Figuring out how to solve for pain points that we are having, figuring that if we're having that issue, then probably a lot of other folks are having the same issue.
And Henry, so if I remember right, you guys are in the Richmond area, Virginia?
Yeah, we are Richmond, Virginia, and there isn't actually a nonstop flight here now, so really excited about that, yeah.
Very cool. We always love nonstops. When it comes to your customers, people in our industry, they probably heard the name Parasol, but they might not know exactly what it does, its functionalities and things like that. Can you just give us a quick debriefing on what Parasol is?
Yeah, so Parasol was really created with this really acute pain point in mind that for most integrators, when your customers are home, you're closed for business. And so really it was like the customer would come home after the system had been installed, the system doesn't work, or maybe you train somebody in the home. There's a lot of frustration there. They call and they get voicemail, or maybe they're texting the installer who did the job, and they're at dinner or their kid's softball game or something. A lot of pain and frustration there. And so initially it was like, hey, let's try to do this ourselves. And we failed miserably at that. And so then it was like, hey, you know what? The only way we're going to be able to actually do a proactive product, the kind of product that Livewire would want to offer to its customers, is by scaling it to where we're doing it much larger than we ever could have done ourselves. So the idea of Parasol was, what if we could proactively give the end customer a phone number that they could call and text 24/7, 365? What if we could give them an email address? What if we could give them a chat interface? What if we could give them the ability to just whatever they wanted to do, anytime, day or night, resolve their pain? And what if we could do it most of the time in like a single interaction? Wouldn't that be cool? My sales guys thought I was insane. We ended up slowly and steadily, just like everything else. It's always harder and takes 3.14 times as much time to do something that you want to do. But fast forward to today, and we now, Parasol now has, hundreds and hundreds of dealers, integrator partners, companies just like Livewire around the US, UK, and Canada, and thousands and thousands and thousands of homeowners and small businesses who are able to alleviate pain like that. And then the other piece of it that we really dig is that from an employee perspective, you think about your stressed out installers who are getting texted after hours from folks who are not really happy, and there's a kind of a means of redirecting that now. So that's sort of the Parasol story and what Parasol is today.
Right, and so leading up to that story is something that we want to talk about in the first question, which is you guys have been around for several years now. Before then, if we kind of take a look at the market, say over the past 10 years, we know that, and it includes the pandemic as well, but we know technology has evolved. We know that the kind of solutions that customers are looking for are changing as well. But with that, and you hit the nail right on the head with everything about what Parasol is doing when it comes to customer service, but it goes back to what customers are looking for and customer expectations, right? And how those have also evolved over the last 10 years. So I want to ask you guys, and we'll start with the integrators. Jonathan, we'll start with you. How have customer expectations really impact the way your customer service has changed in the last, decade or so, and even in the last few years since the pandemic, where I'm sure you're getting call after call about, hey, is this, this doesn't work right, or do we need new upgrades for our network, things like that?
So the long story short is that customer expectations have never been higher. And I think about technologies that have completely transformed the customer experience, and the one that comes to mind most often is Uber. That you can click a button and within a number of minutes a car shows up at your front door to take you anywhere you want to go. And, stretch that out to Amazon and Walmart with, one button click purchasing. That's where the customer's mindset is at. And that's the benchmark that they're judging our service levels by. During the pandemic, it became even harder to meet those expectations because we didn't have enough people, we didn't have enough products to deliver in the timelines that these customers ultimately want. So with respect to where we're at today, I think the biggest thing is that customers want a high level of service in a short amount of time with a high degree of transparency over what they're getting and what they're going to pay for it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially with the way that we had to deal with the supply chain crisis and all of that. And they're wondering, why is it going to take 6 months for me to, get my new AV receiver? So
Exactly.
Could I connect the two comments, though?
Absolutely.
I think, first of all, at Snap, we're completely dependent on the health of this industry. Like, if we can't grow unless the industry grows, and we have recognized the issue that integrators have with taking care of the millions of customers who've bought technology solutions from this industry, and the pain it causes the integrator to do it, and therefore oftentimes they just can't do it effectively. So that's one piece. The second piece is what you just referred to were companies that generally control their ecosystem. Like when you call up the Uber, that is an app, that's a singular app. It's probably dependent on Amazon Web Services, and they have a model for the driver. It's all fairly self-contained. This industry is anything but self-contained. The integrator makes a proposal, and that proposal includes products from 15 other companies, all of which now have some dependence on software for the integrator to install them and the consumer to use them effectively. And they still have the same expectations they do when they're clicking for Uber. And so this is the opportunity the industry faces, is how do we come together to solve that problem? Henry, I think there's probably a software application that you guys used to make Parasol come to life. You didn't mention it. Do you want to mention it real quickly?
Oh, you mean Oversee?
Thank you. And
I
so,
had nothing to do with that, by the way.
And so I think what you guys have just articulated is very real. But that's the opportunity for us as an industry, because the demand coming at this industry is more than it's ever been. And that's the great opportunity we have in front of us.
Yeah. Henry, when you're talking about the technology, especially with what Parasol has to be on for 24/7, that demand is there, and we hear it all the time. The customers, they just want something that works. They just want to be able to have it be used easily, not just for themselves, but if they have visitors, if they have, babysitters or whoever needs to open the door to maybe let themselves in. How has that been dealing with customers who you're trying to tell them, like, look, our systems, they're getting more complex, they're putting more into the whole ecosystem. When you talk about the whole 15, solutions in there, I mean, obviously that's why we call ourselves integrators. Whether or not, that resonates with the customer, we're still trying to figure that out. But what do you say to them in those discussions about, all right, we're going to make sure everything works reliably, even though, you have that high bar expectation, and, our systems are a lot they're integrating a lot more than they used to.
So this is a lot easier to do before the sale than sort of at the end of an angry phone call at 11 o'clock at night. So it starts really early. So it's very much operant conditioning, right? So if we think about like Pavlovian, psychology, it's talking about it in a way that I almost feel like we have permission to say to folks that the tech doesn't work all the time, because it doesn't work all the time. And so there's got to be a willingness. And so there is some integrator in your market who's willing to do this. And our formula for this, we call the cave of pain, right? So we say to them, Arlen, you're so excited about the system, and it's going to be great. In about a year, it's going to be Sunday night, Arlen, and you're going to go to pick up that remote, and that remote is not going to do what it's supposed to do, and it's 9 o'clock, and your show's coming on, and nothing's working. Like, and by this time, like, are you getting a little jukey right now?
Yeah, and it could be just the battery, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So the whole point of the cave of pain exercise is to get this prospect into a place where there's sort of like simulated pain. And then we start to back it off. What if, Arlen, a couple weeks prior, we actually picked up via oversee the fact that your remote was maybe experiencing some issues, and maybe it didn't turn out into an issue at all. But even if it did, you had somebody you could call 24/7, day or night, or you had an app where you're going to be able to reboot things. What would you think of that, Arlen?
I might buy into that.
So that's a way
Tell
of
me
like
more, please.
But it's also it's a second mover strategy, meaning like as an integrator, we're always like worried about differentiation, and we never want to use negativity to talk about the guy across town. But if we say we acknowledge that the tech doesn't work, now we're sort of almost drawing the foul in having the customer ask the guy across town about it. We're also talking about a service that potentially the other guy across town doesn't offer. And then we are, wrapping it all up in this notion that, hey, we've got your back. We've created pain. We've delivered the medication. But again, if we don't start early and we don't create some kind of simulated cave of pain, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because in the spirit of the expectation gap, like, we have to be willing to do that. And I think a selling owner is capable of doing this. You're scaling it out to your sales team, now it gets tougher. And then doing it every single time gets tougher. And you do a training, and then that training sort of goes away 90 days later. 6 months later, you've got to kind of keep painting the ship to some extent and keep sort of perseverating on the messaging. So it's not easy.
Yeah, Jonathan, how do you add to that in terms of setting those realistic customer expectations? You obviously, like you said before, you're dealing with some affluent clientele. They are going to have large expectations with everyone they deal with. And not only that, you're likely dealing with a lot of their handlers too, right? So you're going to have to set the expectations for the designer, the architect, and other people who are going to be there on the project saying, why isn't it done yet, right?
So John and I have talked about this quite a bit, but the world has completely changed with respect to the technology that we put into people's homes. And these are not static devices. These are devices that are constantly being pushed updates that have to figure out a way to communicate with one another. And within our organization, we have trained our salespeople to educate the homeowner that the relationship begins on the first day of the installation. And it's going to be an ongoing service relationship. And for that reason, we've mandated support plans utilizing Parasol. And what we've learned is that in the first 90 days is when the majority of the pain points occur. There's a ton of kinks and bugs that have to be worked out of an automation system when you put it into someone's home. And quite frankly, if you don't wow and impress your homeowner within the first 90 days of adoption, they're going to hate their system. And what we have found is that by putting these programs in place, it gives the homeowner someone to call, it relieves stress on our technical team, and it makes the homeowner wildly happy because they feel like they have a partner, a long-term support partner that's going to be there when they need it. And so, for that reason, it's really not an option. It's a mandatory thing that we're putting in place for that reason.
Yeah, to try to keep it short again. By the way, I just got a comment. You guys are the 2 best dressed integrators in the industry. So I just had to quickly say that.
We'll take you shopping afterwards.
Thank you, John.
Who's your tailor? No. What I'll say is that what I have found is the smart integrators are using this to differentiate their offering to a discerning customer. It's that simple. Like, that's who's coming to you anyway. Like, they're coming to you because they don't want to go to Best Buy. So you guys have done a great job of that.
So John, we're going to cover a topic that I think segues nicely into what we've talked about, and that is the transactional versus relationship nature of dealing with your customer and making sure that it is more than just that installation, that it is an ongoing thing. And one of the things that, as an industry, we're probably not very good at is creating those, relationship sort of surveys and scores there, and making sure that we're double checking and seeing how we're doing as companies, right? Reaching back out to your customers and checking in on them. Whereas, the rest of the world, you get surveys all the time, and you hear a lot about NPS, the Net Promoter Score. And John, I know Snap One, you guys are all about, taking data, crunching the numbers, and then figuring out what to do with them. So when it comes to something like NPS, that's clearly something that 3 letters that you probably are looking at all the time. Where are we in an industry when it comes to that, and how does that play into the whole customer service equation?
Well, thanks. First of all, the company, whether you know it or not, was actually built by 2 integrators. And the culture of the business today continues to be, we're a company built by integrators for integrators. The Net Promoter Score is just a way for us to measure it internally and make sure people understand how important that metric is inside our business. And you guys have probably all answered our surveys, but we do it as a company. We do it around certain offerings we have, around certain products we have, our tech support organization. And thankfully, I think one of the real differentiating factors for us has been we have a lot of what I'll call raving fans inside the integrator community. We also have gotten large enough that we understand that another element of NPS that's really critical for the industry and for Snap One is the satisfaction, the NPS, the end user has with not our company, but the industry. And it's low. The satisfaction of the end customer with what we do as an industry is low. And we have to understand that as an industry, and we have to fix it. And so we've got a tremendous amount of passion around that. And that, sometimes you might come to our booth and you might not see the latest and greatest in terms of innovation, though there's tons of innovation. But what we do to work on making the systems easier to install and more reliable when there's somebody in somebody's house is designed to drive end user satisfaction and drive your profitability. And so how we've approached that is we know the NPS of the end customers in the industry is low. And so then we ask the question, why is it low? And it's generally not because they don't like the lighting we install as an industry, the movie theaters, the outdoor living spaces, the whole home audio. It's not that. It's that it doesn't work all the time. And oddly, it doesn't work when they most want to use it sometimes. Or they get to their second home and it's not working. And so that's why we took such a keen interest in what Henry and Greg Simmons and Ted were doing at Parasol and made investments to help them serve the customer, because we said that's the key to creating a better service experience. And it's, again, as Henry said, it's hard if you're a small business to do that. And then kind of so we're continuing to build off that to position our integration partners to deliver amazing service to the customer, because we know that's one problem with NPS. A second problem we know is, it's less about reliability and it's more about when the customer needs something, they always have to call the integrator. And the integrator's really busy. What drives the integrator's business? Almost every integrator's business comes from the economic model is doing the install. That's how they pay their people. That's how you pay your mortgage. That's how you pay for your vacation. It's a one and done industry. And the service element has been ignored. And that's at the same time the technology is becoming more open. Like what we can deliver with software upgrades and firmware upgrades over the decade you're going to own the system, or that you guys are going to service the system, is really amazing, like what's going to be coming down the pipe. And so what we have been working hard at is how do we help the industry build a business model that drives growth for the integrator, profitability for the integrator, and creates raving fans in the end customer base. Because if we do that, this industry's growth is unlimited. And even like the labor component, more people are going to want to work in this industry. Like the integrators want to watch the Super Bowl too. They want to watch the World Series. They want to watch the Olympics. They don't want to get the phone calls during those times and have to leave their families. And so I think this resonates with the industry. The question is how you put it all together. That's why you see the breadth of products coming out from us. That's why you see the investments we're making in the software platforms and the service platforms.
Sure, that all makes a lot of sense. Jonathan and then Henry, in terms of, we talked about the customer expectations before, but when you're having those discussions and trying to measure your success as a company, whether you use NPS or not, how do you do that? Is it reaching back out to your customers from time to time? And clearly you're going to deal with them, like John was saying, for future upgrades and all that. But how do you know that you're doing a good job?
So we do use NPS scores. We measure every installation with an NPS score, and I'm really proud of what my team's accomplished. We've maintained an 85 NPS score, which is off the charts. And the fact of the matter is that I don't think that that's enough, because, like I said, it's a singular point in time. And the homeowner is going to live in their home for at least 3 years. Most homeowners live in a home anywhere from 3 to 7 years, and then they tend to upgrade or move or whatever it is. But we need to be measuring the NPS constantly, and we need to create the channel by which the customer can come back and purchase upgrades from us, expand the system. And when I think about low NPS scores in this industry, one of the other things is that we are too darn hard to do business with. And my sales team, we've been challenging them to say, how do we make it easier for a homeowner to part with their money to purchase goods and services from us? Because right now they have to call in, make an appointment with a sales rep, might involve a visit to their home, might involve a visit to the showroom. Maybe it takes 48 hours to get a sales order back. Like I said, how come I can go on Amazon and purchase a ton of things within a second? And not to say that we're going to get custom solutions that quickly, but that's the mindset through which we need to think holistically about how we make consumers want to spend their money here with us.
Yep. Henry, how about you guys? How do you measure that ongoing relationship with the customer and that you're meeting their needs or figuring things out for them before they even know it?
So I think we wrap it up with a little bit of selfish kind of marketing around that. So, and I'll plug One Firefly is a product called Review Champ, where basically you could solicit the customer at the end of the job, text or email, and then if they give you 4 stars or above, it hits them to give you a review on Google or Facebook. If it's 3 or below, it routes internally, and you have a chance to do something with it. The implementation challenge, I think, is that there's a bias inside our company, and I would wager any company that we just want to get reviews from the good jobs, and so it's really hard because We definitely want to operationalize every single job. And it's not for lack of trying, and I think we do a pretty good job with that, but we've automated that for years. But we found that the only way for us really to get that review is for me to ask you for it when you're really happy. And you feel how we're slightly uncomfortable right now? Yeah, that's when you're going to review and you're happy. But we've tried to automate it. It doesn't seem to work. But asking for it in the moment, and then, again, it's another moment of painting the ship with training, but that's how we do it. So and then as a result, we have a ton of Google reviews, which from a marketing perspective, social proof is a powerful way of funneling new business to your company.
So you've obviously dealt with the end user from the integrator standpoint, and you've dealt with integrators from the parasol standpoint. In terms of what companies can do differently to differentiate themselves, and what they're doing now, clearly when you talk about industry, NPS is not working a lot. So what are some of the other tips that you can do, best practices that you found in, whether it's communications on a daily basis, putting together reports of their systems?
So, yeah, that's a great one. And I think Jonathan hit the nail on the head. How many of us, when a new prospect comes in the door, can just click, book an appointment, and schedule a service appointment or a sales appointment? If your new prospective customers can't order you like they order a Papa John's pizza, like there's something missing there. We're technologists. We should have that workflow. It's on our website. You can go look at it, steal it. I mean, have a good time. It's right there. Frictionless working. Why aren't we talking more about pricing? Why aren't we giving customers a better sense of, maybe framing a budget, allowing them to do some exploration, allowing them to explore, poke around, do some education. As far as the thinking about your business, how many of your workflows involve a conversation where somebody says, I'll have to have somebody call you back? That's broken. So any of those workflows are opportunities to say, okay, nothing happens till you sell something. So maybe let's become easier to do business with on the sales side. Then we can attack the installation and the service side. On the sort of kind of parasol or service side, we deliver a monthly home kind of report card that sort of lets you know, kind of gives you peace of mind how things are going in the home. And then we'll send a notification, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, just making sure you have the service, et cetera. But as far as the tips and tricks piece, I would tag back to what Jonathan said about us all looking in the mirror and being a little more frictionless to work with. And the tools are there, and the vendors are here at the show who can help make that happen.
Yeah, you guys have mentioned some of the mainstream companies. If we're talking about Amazon, we talked about Uber, things like that. In terms of the recurring revenue potential of this and providing how excellent customer service or the 24/7 aspect of it can lead to something that certainly CE Pro has been preaching for years about bringing in all this extra money that's just coming in every month just because you guys are doing excellent customer service. Where does that fit into the mix? And from thinking about the mainstream, just shopping daily or what we're used to for customer expectations, everything that we subscribe to these days, has that helped change their mind, thinking that, hey, maybe we need some sort of subscription plan as part of this if you're going to sell it to them that way?
I think, quite frankly, there are some kind of useless subscriptions. So I think in some regards, homeowners are looking at that and saying, I don't need another subscription. That said, the homeowners that we cater to are really sophisticated people. And they understand that there's a cost of maintenance. And what they're purchasing is a high value solution. And so for them, when you explain it to them in the terms of, you're going to pay me this amount, and it's going to cost this much per month. Here's what you're going to get. And with that, your system is going to continuously improve. It's not going to degrade from the minute that we install it. We're going to continuously make investments that make the technology better. And that's the model that I think that they can appreciate. And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I look at the IT business. We did a project for a client of ours who sold a major IT consultancy firm a couple years ago. And he said to me, he said, I can't believe that all integrators don't charge recurring revenue. He said, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And he said, when I was in the IT business, we leased all this technology because we knew the minute that we put it into an office building, it lost value. But the client wasn't paying for that hardware at that moment in time. They were paying for a long-term solution. And so I think when we flip our mindset and focus on these long-term relationships and allowing centers of excellence to be developed a la Parasol, all of a sudden it frees up your entire service and tech teams and sales teams to go out and build relationships with your customers. And that is going to generate an incredible amount of profit for all of us.
Right. John, I was going to say, just from a context standpoint, from the manufacturer side, certainly we know that RMR is something that the security industry figured out a long time ago. You know, they were able to get the subscribers. They have now they have analytics, things that they know that their customers are willing to pay for. From a manufacturer standpoint, how are you guys supporting the dealers and trying to steer them in the right direction of how they might be able to implement this, especially when they have things like, you know, Oversee and Parasol, where they're going to be able to communicate directly, you know, about their behind the scenes?
Yeah, we're investing, none of it's over there, but we're investing heavily in the service and software model for this industry that they need. Just to piggyback, I meet with Wall Street investors, many of whom are well-heeled. I walked into an investor meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the guy said, how come I'm paying Ring a recurring revenue charge at my apartment in New York City, but I'm not paying you for Luma at my beach house on Long Island? Like, he was dumbfounded by it, as he should have been. And so we are working hard on the software model. We're working hard on the service model. That's why we made the big investment in Parasol. And we're going to bring it to market for the industry. And if you see some of the enhancements we've made on both the Oversee and the Control4 side, you can start to imagine what that would look like. So if you take security, for instance, like, there's so much we can do with surveillance around video analytics, and you can see the video analytics over there. And so we want to help integrators evolve their business. We want to help them build recurring revenues. We want to transform this industry from a transactional industry to a relationship industry. And we think that is where we'll find, instead of a indifferent customer community around this industry, we'll build raving fans, and we'll put a lot of profits and build a lot of value for the integration businesses. So we've been investing heavily. We've got a number of partners who've been working on it with us, and so we're really excited about it. Stay tuned.
Awesome. We'll definitely be excited to hear about that as well. Jonathan and Henry, to wrap us up here before we get to a Q&A, you guys go to conferences throughout the year. You're constantly having, you know, networking, brainstorming with other integrators out there. You know, if you could, you know, pick out one thing maybe in the course of the last year or so that has struck you as, hey, you know, that might be something we should try, or something that a dealer you've heard of that has implemented that's worked. Is there anything that, you know, resonates or strikes out that you remember, or even something that you put into your own business?
I mean, I think for us within iWired in particular, we are hunting for recurring revenue like never before. And the directive within our team is that if there is not an RMR leg associated with the technology that we are putting into people's homes, we are not going to install it. And that means that we may walk some customers. That we may find customers who say, you know what, I can find this from somebody else and I don't have to pay a monthly subscription. And we're going to be comfortable in the strength of our strategy to say, then you're not the right customer for us. And so, we're drawing some pretty definitive lines in the sand to say that we're not going to walk into someone's home without a service contract in place. And so, from our angle, we're interested in meeting other dealers and other vendors who support that notion and who are willing to take a stand to say that enough is enough. We need to turn this model on its head and be paid what we deserve to be paid to provide the level of service that customers expect and, quite frankly, deserve.
Most integrators in other industries who have deployed a model like this wake up 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and the recurring revenue part of their business is equal to the rest of their business. Had this industry pursued this type of model 7 years ago, that would be the case. The industry is leaving billions of dollars on the table, and those billions of dollars in each of your businesses would translate into investments in customers' homes and businesses that would drive much higher customer satisfaction, create raving fans. That's the model. That's the model. And we're here to help empower that.
Yeah, and when you think about it with the security industry as well, it's something that they definitely get, and they've basically brainwashed their customers into thinking that's going to be a part of it, and they have it figured out, certainly. And there's more opportunities for it in the custom industry right now, as what Jonathan was saying. Whether it's through remote systems, power management systems, different things that we haven't even thought of. So, Henry, how about you? How have you implemented it or heard of other ways that it's being done uniquely?
Well, so I was just thinking about it. Recently, I've spoken to my son for years. Well, a lot of us have kids, right? So I've shared with him for years the importance of saving money. He knew 10 years ago that in order for him to afford a car, he needed to save $7.62 a day to afford this car he wanted. And the day comes, and he's, coming to, turn 16, and I'm like, hey, it's great. You got all the money saved up, right? And he doesn't. He's got nothing. Theoretical. He then is able to now buy his first car, and he now has a kind of steel and rubber sort of infant, basically, crying constantly for gas and oil changes. And it was like overnight he was hit upside the head with a 2x4, and the kid is working like I've never seen him work before. Where are you heading, son? I'm going to work. I gotta make money for this car. I gotta make money for it. So I'll land the plane. I feel like we've been in this stage of maybe preaching a little bit, and we're over kind of being preached to about RMR. But yesterday's keynote talked about the integrator of 2027 and talked about the fact that if we're not leading with design, if we're not leading with services, and specifically said, if you are product focused at that point and not design and services focused, you are kind of disintermediated. You are no longer kind of part of the picture. That's what I see in front of us. And there's never been a time where we have more permission to ask for the customer to commit to a relationship and for us to monetize that relationship. Everything has a subscription now. And just like Jonathan said, easy analogies like talking about, hey, you just put in a really nice ornamental garden or landscaping with us. If you don't take care of it, it's gonna grow weeds. The trees are gonna die. Like, you want us to take care of this thing. You want us to be proactive. And again, it's all about framing and getting in early and starting early.
Yeah, and just to punctuate that, I'll say, from the security industry standpoint, again, you talk about the integrator of 2027 or so. When the integrators start thinking about an exit strategy or selling their business in the security industry, the RMR component is a greater impact on the valuation, I think, than the actual business's bottom line to it, and the valuation goes up 5, 6, 7x.
The reality is too, Arlen, like we joke about this on our team all the time. The security side of our business is so much easier than the AV smart home side of our business. And so the fact that we're getting 70 points of margin on a monthly contract for a basic camera system and an alarm panel, and not demanding at least that, if not more, for a sophisticated distributed audio video system is foolish. Quite frankly, it's foolish.
So with that, we do have a microphone in the middle, and we have time for a couple of questions if anyone in the audience wants to step up and ask our panelists, who give them a round of applause, please. They did a great job on this panel. Henry, Jonathan, and John, thank you again. Let's hear it. Go ahead, Gordon.
Thanks. Great panel, guys. I always love to hear you guys talk. Gordon Van Zyden with Cybermanor. The one comment I would make is, we always hear a lot of these analogies: security, recurring revenue, enterprise recurring revenue, Uber, all the rest of the things you mentioned. And it's always because it's a self-contained sandbox of solutions from those companies. In the home space, it's all things for everybody, all parts. So I think the one point that I didn't hear much raised is the way we have to start and address this is from the design step one. If you don't use the best routers, the best switches, the best third-party products, and kudos to Snap One and OVRC, you're creating a suite of products that are certified and tested. If you don't start with that and maintain that, then you're back to just the wild, wild west, what's going on in the home. So my only point would be, and to ask you is, the importance of that initial rock-solid design to really do the best you can to keep the service part at a minimum. Without that, it's the wild, wild west. Any thoughts?
I appreciate the comment. In the founding days of Parasol, when you guys had the notion of how could Oversee help you do all this very efficiently, you came to us and said, we need all this in Oversee, because the industry, like every integrator, is out there selling a host of different solutions. And I remember saying to you guys, it can't work that way. Oversee cannot integrate with every single solution in the industry in the way it needs to for Parasol to be able to diagnose and repair the issue that the homeowner or business owner is facing. And we went through a lot of discussion around the creating a shorter list of products that we could effectively support, and then doing certain things where you guys said, here's how we're going to mandate the process for how the install has to go, so the technician remotely could effectively see the rack. And I've been on the phone with Parasol on a Saturday night myself, and it's amazing what the people can see. And so I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think the industry's got to go through a change where we can't have a notion that custom experiences mean that every install is a set of custom products. We've got to have a notion that we're going to deliver custom experiences, but the way we're going to do that efficiently is around a more curated set of products that we know we can count on for tight integration, whether it's with Control4 or Oversee, or if you're doing this with another set of manufacturers, do that same thing with them. So I agree wholeheartedly with you, and I think you guys have probably found that as you've supported all these customers.
Well, and the thing we did at the beginning as well is made it sort of easy, because we knew that integrators, we don't like being told what to do. And so we knew, hey, we need to kind of say, hey, you need something basic, like you need an Oversee Pro Hub. My partner Ted created something called Blueprint, which was the first sort of universal language that our industry used to sort of talk about how our systems are labeled together, which I think was a great way of taking systems made by a bunch of disparate manufacturers and then enabled us to support them. But Gordon, your point about us taking D&E, design and engineering, seriously, really taking it seriously, panicking in private, failing on paper. You fail on paper here, and then the job doesn't go sort of sideways. But how often do we just throw together, to your point, a bunch of parts and just sort of hope for the best. So I think there's a lot of room for us to back it up. I mean, we talked earlier about the importance of raising up, recalibrating expectations early. Design and engineering is absolutely that deal. And the challenge, I think, is having been a one-man shop, those resources just were, there was nobody to help me along the way there. Thankfully now, I think there's a lot more resources to get us trained and how to do that. There's even outsourced outfits like Blue Dog, et cetera, who can help with that kind of work. But I couldn't agree more with what you said.
I think, too, one of the other things that the industry, broadly speaking, needs to acknowledge is that there needs to be a certain roadmap and set of standards with respect to what a quality install and ecosystem and end user experience looks like. And until the vendors and the installers and the client are all on the same page with respect to what that ecosystem and the end product is supposed to look like, yes, there will be chaos. But from my vantage point, people in this room and at this expo have the opportunity right now to take a leap forward and say, let's all get on the same page. Let's sell the same products, leave the ego at the door, and recognize that it's the homeowner's opinion and the homeowner's opinion only about how this experience goes that matters. And once you do that, then all of a sudden you can create strategic relationships all the way through the supply chain that enable a much higher value experience for all parties. And I think if we don't do it, somebody else will. Somebody else will come along, the market will say, you know what, whoever it is that's got $1 billion willing to throw it down and make this experience happen will figure it out. And so it's, like I said, it's an inflection point. It's a time, it's an opportunity for dealers to get together and create some sort of roadmap of what that looks like.
All right, we're going to have to end it on that. Great point and great panel session. Really, thank you guys again. Thank you to sponsor Snap One and John, Jonathan, and Henry. Thanks a lot. Everyone, one more round of applause.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming.